Croeso, hello, welcome to the latest episode of RobRyanRed, the Wrexham podcast brought to you in association with Red 10 People Development. On today's podcast, we'll take a look back at victory over Mansfield, penalty shootout defeat against Port Vale, and look ahead to our clash with Stockport County this weekend. We'll also get through a few of your emails and your thoughts on the controversial talking point of last week's pod. All that and more on this latest episode.
RobRyanRed.
So Nath, I suppose we start here, recording on a Wednesday. Bristol Street Motors, we're into the knockout stage. We knew that already. Victory over Port Vale wasn't to be. Penalty shootout defeats, even though it was actually a draw. We finished top of the group, all inconsequential. Before we get onto that, I suppose Mansfield is the more of the important of the two matches, isn't it? It was a truer gauge of where we're up to. It looked like a banana skin. It was an early kickoff. A lot could have gone wrong. It was underwhelming as a neutral spectacle. I think we got away with one on Saturday. How about you?
I feel like the only thing that went wrong was you got there far too early, and I'm an early bird. I think that probably the most problematic thing was that you had so long to kill before the game, but you got there in the end anyway, which is all fine.
I managed to get to Wrexham at about 10 a.m. or half 10 was it? I just walked around the town centre endlessly looking through the different shops. I wasn't in the mood for food or for a pint. I ended up having food and a pint because I had so much time to kill. But
Lovely.
Yeah, it was. I guess that's kind of the first talking point, isn't it? It's the early kickoff, so you always got to be a little bit rusty. I feel that early kickoffs tend to be flat anyway. Mansfield visiting, who on paper might not be the most, elite opposition. No disrespect to them, they're not a team you're gonna get too excited about because they're newly promoted along with us. One of the very best teams in the division, though, and they deserved something from that game.
Definitely, they were. For my money, they probably just about edged it. If I was going to say 55-45 in terms of just about who edged it. I mean, they were really unlucky. Lee Gregory smashes the crossbar in the second half. He kind of had to get a bit of power on it to lift it over the kind of flailing legs of the defenders. But you earn your luck as well. I felt like we were hard done by at Charlton. And I tweeted as much. I feel like we got 2 points fewer than we deserved at Charlton. And we probably got 2 points more than we deserved against Mansfield, and that's football ultimately. I remember you and I were walking out of Charlton, and you said, "I can't wait till we get that last minute winner. Can't wait till we get that feeling of, we've kind of got something we didn't deserve, sort of thing, or we managed to win it at the death." And I felt like while we didn't get that exact feeling, there was that kind of relief to be like, it's evened itself out. Football works in mysterious ways. Nigel Clough definitely would have been tearing his hair out on the coach home because they're a good team and a team that Sky seemed to absolutely love showing us against because they've also picked the reverse game at Field Mill. That's also been moved to a Sunday slot now. So both games, the doubleheader with Mansfield on TV this season. So I'm not sure what it is about the Stags against the Dragons, but they absolutely love it. And for my money, I found it very entertaining game, in truth.
I also think that maybe the quirk of analysing this match is I always felt it was going to be a narrow scoreline either way anyway. I thought it would be a 1-1 or a 2-1 perhaps. Although on last week's podcast, I probably predicted like a 6-0 or something because that's how hypocritical I am. But the fact that we scored a goal out of nothing quite early on, it meant that our mentality for the game anyway was more so to see out the result as much as possible. We weren't going to go and try score 2 or 3 really against that Mansfield team because they, again, similar to Huddersfield, I think they have such a good defence. I think they're just so well drilled, so hard to play against. Aidan Flint was a rock at the back. So part of the reason why Mansfield did dominate, one is because they're a very good football team. One was because we had a lead to hold on to. So it's going to be in their interest to do so. And I would say as well, second half, we really should have got a second goal. We had some good chances that were wasted. There was one breakaway in particular when the pass was just completely wrong. I can't remember who it was, but they stormed through on goal. Should have played it to Elliot Lee out wide, but they didn't. They had the shot themselves. I can't quite remember who it was. And there was also the chance that fell to Paul Mullin where he's tried to sort of acrobatically turn the ball in. And last season that goes in. Just like last season, that header against Huddersfield goes in and wins us the game. he's just looking a little rusty at the moment. I did see a stat, though, that this time last year, he'd only scored, I think, 2 league goals, and he's got 1 league goal so far. So, he's maybe not that far off the standards, and we saw how well Paul Mullin finished the season. There's obviously a bit of concern by the fact that it's not clicked just yet. With Marriott out, I think it's almost a moot point, though. I think Paul Mullin starts whenever he's fit. And I still think it's going to get to the point where there's going to be one game and it clicks, because we're in a couple of group chats, aren't we, Nathan? One of the talking points this week was, do you think Paul Mullin's just not a League One striker? I think he is a League One striker. We've seen what he can do in his career so far. The fact that, and this isn't meant to be a negative, but the fact that Ollie Palmer is a League One striker kind of proves to me that Paul Mullin is as well. I know they're very different types of player, but if Ollie Palmer can do it at League One level, I've got no doubt that Paul Mullin can. And I really do think it's all going to click at some point. And even if Mulls only gets between sort of 10 or 12 goals a season, that's still, that kind of proves that he is just a League One striker. I guess the problem is now that Paul Mullin was always the best or one of the best strikers in the league every time he's been at Wrexham. And now he is just in a playing field where there's better strikers. He doesn't stand out as more. And yeah, his own performances just haven't been good enough. But I still have full faith in Paul Mullin.
That's a long-winded way to say you still believe in him. Give every indication that you maybe didn't there for a second. But they get compared. You're saying Ollie Palmer's a League One striker and you think Paul Mullin is also. They get judged completely differently. One of them, it's like, okay, if he doesn't score. If he doesn't score goals, everything else he brings is valuable, super valuable. You know that, and Paul Mullin knows that. Ultimately, he is being judged on his output, his goal production. And if he finishes with 8 to 10 goals, you know that with the amount of publicity that Mullin gets and the attention that's on him, that will be seen as a poor season for him, rightly or wrongly. I'm just telling you what the facts are in how that will be interpreted, because the kind of outside world that don't follow Wrexham every week will look and go, well, he got 28 here, he got 30 here, and he got 8 here. Now, he should be able to pick up a head of steam once he gets going, and it's just taking a little bit longer to get going. We shouldn't underestimate the gravity of what he underwent in the summer, in terms of spinal surgery. I don't care if you want to call it minor or not. I don't think such a thing exists, really. Minor spinal surgery, not sure. And so it's just taking a little bit of time, and really I don't think he hit his stride fully last season until that Forest Green penalty, and then I remember that Accrington hat trick he scored at home, and he was just rolling then. And if the season had kept running, he probably would have got the golden boot. So he just needs that flurry, as does some of the other strikers. There's a lot of strikers there that just need to feel the ball go in, see the ball hit the back of the net, and they can run away with it. Then they can kind of feel that confidence, let it run through them. But yeah, when you're saying about Ollie Palmer, I would agree. I think he's had a very good season, but he's being judged completely differently to how, if we were judging Ollie Palmer on needing to get 15 goals, I just don't think that's going to happen. But we're not, so
no, exactly. And again, it's almost that's the narrative, isn't it? It's that everything Ollie Palmer does extra is a bonus. Everything Paul Mullin doesn't do is that sort of amplified as a negative. And again, I suppose the positive for me is, in a weird way, the chances Mullin are missing, he's getting in the right positions. The header against Huddersfield, he should score or at least hit the target, and then the effort against Mansfield. But he's still finding that space in between the sticks. And I think that, if you do get that bit of luck, your confidence is up, you play with, your sort of head high, it will all be fine. It will click. I'm still very confident. And it's also even more of a compliment to where we are in the table, considering we've basically been playing without the goals of Paul Mullin so far this season as well. Barney, man of the match, wasn't he, as well? I was going to say. I was going to try and move on from Mullin chat, because I feel...
I was just going to say about, I think, talking about riding our luck, I think we got away with what I felt was a clear penalty on Dan Scarr. I thought you watch the replay, he shoves him in the back, full hand out. That's a penalty. I would be furious if that wasn't given for us at the other end. It's a clear hand in the back. So you ride your luck, you know what I mean? It's been a lot of talk this week about the opinions of referees on certain managers and certain teams. Don't know what these refs think about Wrexham, but in this instance, very much worked in Wrexham's favour. I think the official was pretty poor overall for both teams.
I didn't get that narrative at the end. I mean, to be honest, I completely forgot or even wasn't really aware of this penalty shout until right now. Because on social, I felt like Mansfield fans were blaming the referee for the reason that their team didn't get anything. But to me, they just missed lots of chances.
Yeah, Gregory's probably got to shoot when he's through on goal, but when you watch it back, it was at the tech end. So whether you were just drifting off, I don't know. Maybe you'd gone. Maybe
Oh, the
just
one
been
when he
chatting.
ran through on goal. That is
Yeah,
I was behind. That was never, ever, ever,
you
ever
watch-
a penalty.
You watch
never
it back. I'll
a
put it
penalty.
back. Dan Scott's hand is straight in his back.
Never a penalty.
We'll put it on social. It's a
You
clear
could see.
penalty.
No,
One of the clearest
I was sat in the
penalties
tech end. I was sat in the tech end. Lee Gregory is looking for the foul. He's just
Yeah, and
waiting
he
to go
gets it.
down.
And he gets
It's
it. Your hand in
never,
the back. It's
never.
straight in the back.
No,
If that
it
was
is
on
never
Mullin,
ever a penalty.
if that was on Mullin, you'd be screaming for it. You would be.
I don't think I would.
screaming for it.
I really don't
You
think I would.
would.
Because we saw
That
it.
is ridiculous.
I sat in the tech end in real time. See, when you mentioned it, I was like, I must have missed this penalty shot. It was such a non-penalty, I completely forgot it was even a contentious moment. It was never a pen for me.
But that's a different thing.
Never,
But the thing is, I'm obviously not able to go. That I was working, so I had the benefit of all the replays. Zoom, clear hand on the back, penalty. This.
I'm going to watch this now because I'm.
You have to watch your back.
Based on my opinion from being in the tech end at the time, I was just like, I'd be fuming if that was my striker because, in my opinion, he was just looking for the penalty, waiting for some contact.
He should have shot earlier, and I think he tried to score. And what I will say quickly is, I think you want to talk about Barnaby man of the match. I think Arthur was probably a close second. He was up there. I thought he performed.
Well,
really
I was going to say that. Yeah, I was kind of got to say that I've got no qualms with Barnett getting it because he gets the decisive moment in the match. But to me, yeah, I thought a defender perhaps should have got it or Arthur because those are the moments that define the game at the other end for us. I know it was a good goal out of nowhere from Barney, but
and he's racking up the clean sheets as well, Arthur. Now you have to say that I think I'm not even sure if any keeper in League Two's got League One even's got as many clean sheets as Arthur. I think he's either the top two or even the top one. I think he's right up there. And yeah, he played well. And I was a bit worried, heart in mouth moment when he kind of didn't go down. I don't know how to describe it. He kind of saved a shot and then just dived and landed a little bit awkwardly. I don't know, but now it's getting a little bit colder, this and that. I don't know, but when you land, Rich, you've all been there. When you're playing in winter and you get tackled and it's just cold. I don't know, maybe I sound a bit soft here, but when you get challenged, it's freezing cold. Everything stings that little bit more. And it looked like when he went down and kind of did he collide with Barnett at the cop end? I'm not really sure, but there was some kind of collision. Anyway, he shook it off and carried on. But yeah,
this worst penalty decision of all time wasn't included in either. But neither team even included it in their YouTube highlights of the match. So to me, that's sort of to me that hammers home the fact that even Mansfield Town haven't included it. Hammers home the fact that it's not a penalty whatsoever.
Before I jump on my flight in the morning to Gibraltar, I'm going to find that. I'm going to find the clip. Okay. I'm going to find the screen grab of which the hand is on the back.
Is this the new talking point on the podcast? We've had Crest Gate. We've now got penalty gate.
But my whole point is that you just ride your luck. Like there'll be decisions where we thought it was slightly harsh on Max. So people were definitely saying that where was his arm meant to go at Charlton, and some people were saying it was a penalty. Others said it wasn't, and that cost you 2 points. And then okay, you might say never a penalty. All the comments might say never a penalty. I thought it was based on the replays I saw, but at the end of the day, it wasn't a penalty. So Wrexham get the clean sheet, get the win. It's a big win. It creates that distance whereby there's that game in hand now that Mansfield have on Wrexham. It's a non-factor in terms of they can't surpass Wrexham now based on, I think it's a 4-point cushion now between the two teams. So it is a really, really big win, that, and an important one as well, especially on a day where, say, George Dobson wasn't quite at his best. And he's been so key for us that you do get through a game, which is a tough game, an attritional game. You're not going to see a lot of the ball. They're going to have a lot of chances. I don't know. It's impressive resilience to get through games like that.
Particularly because that was it within like a minute and a half, wasn't it, where Dobson played that ball across his own goal, got intercepted. I think Will Evans maybe tested a Conquo, which could have ended badly. And if that goes in, then who knows how the game turns out. You could be losing 2 or 3-0 just because of the manner of it. The other huge bonus that we'll talk about going into the weekend is that there was no bookings for Cannon, for McLean, or for Dobson, so they'll all be fit and available and not suspended to face Stockport this weekend. Before we get onto that then, Port Vale, Tuesday night. As we said, a draw was always going to guarantee top spot for Wrexham in the group. If you win the shootout, you get an additional point, but that, because of the goal difference, was a non-factor for where Wrexham would finish. So we did the job by drawing 1-1 with Port Vale on Tuesday night. First of all, before we get into the lineup, we get into the kit, we get into the match as a whole. Massive shout out to friend of the podcast, James Kelly, who not only flew down, was it from Edinburgh or Dublin? Basically,
Dublin. He flew in from Dublin.
He flew in from Dublin to go to watch Port Vale on Tuesday night, and then he missed the club coach home and got stranded in Stoke. So the commitment of that man, wow.
And also, shout out to friend of the pod, James Kelly's mum, because she had to come and rescue him from Crewe. He made it. He managed to get his way to Crewe somehow from. I think he was just stuck in Stoke. Realised, okay, I need to get to Longport. And to be honest, if anyone is fortunate enough to know James, it was a very James Kelly story that he was just flew in from Dublin, got lost seemingly looking for the coach. Coaches drive past him just to kind of rub it in.
It's also the fact that the attendance was so low. It's like, how do you get stuck? There's not even if you got stuck in the swarms of supporters afterwards. I don't know how he's managed it. And he was treated to a penalty shootout defeat at the other end of an empty stadium, watching a fascinating Wrexham lineup. I mean, it was 11 changes, Nath. Will Boyle, the captain, injured in the warm-up, so Max Cloworth comes in, scores the goal, captains the side. Luke Bolton goes off 10 minutes into the match with a calf injury. He's replaced by Seb Revan, or as the commentator on the stream I was watching was call him Seb Reuven. Or Ruvan. Didn't understand that. Really irritated me. In the same way that you and me just butcher pronunciations every week. So I can sympathise. I can really sympathise with our listeners. The lineup. Interesting. I'll just get it up now for anyone who didn't watch the game. So Wrexham went with Burton in goal. He was replaced, though, by Mark Howard, who made his 50th Wrexham appearance from the bench and did decent enough in the shootout. I think he went the right way for every penalty, but only managed to stop one. Luke Bolton started with Aaron James, Max Cloworth, Lewis Brunt, Jacob Mendy in defence, and Anthony Ford. So I suppose Bolton was in midfield?
Ford was in midfield, yeah.
Okay.
Ford was in midfield.
And then Matty James debut, Josh Adam debut, Jon Dadi Bodvarsson and Mo Farl. Two things I want to mention there. Mo Farl we'll get onto in a second, Nave, because we've got something to say about him. Lewis Brunt, if he hadn't signed for Wrexham, he probably would have been starting at the racecourse at the weekend for Mansfield, wouldn't he? And now he's being reduced to Bristol Street Motors games. It's an interesting one because we know how talented he is. You can't really justify a starting role for him in the first team right now. And these are the games where he's just got to bide his time. It's quite a fascinating dynamic for him that, he could easily have been at the racecourse on Saturday playing for Mansfield.
I'm obsessed with this competition for one reason. I don't really care for the competition so much, but the fact that is that every lineup is always just so fascinating because it's just players you don't get to watch. And I think, it is great in terms of the narratives that come out of it because you get to see Matty James's debut. Howard gets his 50th appearance. You kind of the forgotten man almost because he's now become third choice. Aaron James, I thought handled him, acquitted himself really well. He had difficult moments in the game. They were definitely targeting that left side. Revan was poor at Harrogate, really stepped up. I thought was much improved at Port Vale when I watched it back. Brunt as well, another. I thought he played absolutely fine. Max, as ever, was kind of. It's really funny that Max was kind of the senior pro lead in that team, the first teamer that was dragging it over the line. Bodvarsson gets a really good flick on for Max's goal, to tap in at the back post, but you've got to be there. Got to have that instinct to get there. It's a great flick on by Bodvarsson, the type of thing you need your target man striker to do. I thought Matty James' hamstring went at one point. I was kind of a bit worried, but there was nothing mentioned post-match from Parky, and it was just the two calf problem for Will Boyle, who seemingly had the issue during the week, and then calf problem for Luke Bolton. So not ideal for both of those because it is such a rare opportunity for the likes of Brunt, for the likes of Adam, for the likes of Bodvar, all these players.
All of them, really, isn't
all
it?
Of them,
Max,
it's an opportunity where you think, all right, they put in a really good performance, knowing that they'll be straight back out the side when it comes to Stockport on Saturday or whatever game comes up. So I'm glad we've gone through. I'm glad we've got a home tie. We don't know the draw yet. Be played at the end of the month, I think, the next round. And yeah, I'm just glad we're through purely so that those players know they've definitely got another. Anthony Ford's at least got one more game in him before it gets to January, and then who knows where we are with him. So yeah, pleased for a lot of them just to get a much needed run out.
The interesting thing then, I mean, the way we looked on the pitch physically as well. Red shirt, black shorts, black socks. You like the look. I thought we looked like a Salford City light, and it was like a Salford City sellout sort of atmosphere, wasn't it, as well, in that empty Vale Park?
I can't speak to the atmosphere because that is what the Bristol Street Motors will give you, just empty stadiums. Now I was working over in Huddersfield. I mean, I think their crowd was 3,000. They regularly get 15, 16,000. So, it was massively depleted. There are more, as often with these games, there's a lot more execs almost, it feels like, than actual fans there. But the kit I thought was absolutely stunning. I loved it. The black and red, I thought we looked so sharp, the players. Really,
I always
really
like
liked
the
it.
novelty of a change socks or change shorts just because it looks a bit different. It's not what you're used to. There's that nice quirk to it. Certainly, not for me. Although there are some sort of classic Wrexham pictures. You think back to sort of the 70s. Was there like a Welsh Cup final against Barry where we wore black shorts, I think, and black socks? Let us know if you can remember Wrexham wearing that combination. So there's elements of that sort of retro throwback to it, but not for me, mate. Not for me. It just looked off.
I maybe it was just the quirk of it. I'm not saying I daren't suggest any further changes to anything we have because clearly that riled up most of Wrexham Twitter and social media space. So I'm going to say I liked it as the novelty. I liked the one-off element of it. And I think apparently the reason we even wore red was because it already had all the patches on Bristol Street Motors. So it wasn't a case of reprinting. So we were kind of eager apparently to play in red because we've worn red. I just see it's been 2 home games, hasn't it, previously? So the kit's kind of been ready to go.
We mentioned there we've got something to say about Mo Fowle. Would you like to do the honours?
Yeah, we are the proud sponsors. Proud is the key word as well. We're like proud podcasting parents, I guess. We are the proud sponsors of Mo Fowle's home shirt for the remainder of the 2024-25 season. I know what you're thinking. Why are you not just sticking with Jacob Mendy? We haven't betrayed Jacob Mendy. We just thought we would freshen up, show some support to the new guy, which is in this case we plucked for Mo Fowle. Or were you lobbying more for Mo Fowle?
I was lobbying for Mo Fowle. We were sent sort of like this renewal spreadsheet, weren't we, of the players who were available, and we wanted a home shirt just because we've both been very fortunate to be able to be gifted away shirts at the end of the season that are match issued or match paired with signatures on them, gifted to us very kindly by Jacob Mendy, which is fantastic to have.
Yeah,
we kind of want a red shirt at some point. And Mo Fowle was one of those, and Wrexham's most expensive ever signing.
Yeah, do you think with Mo Fowle though, that I obviously I get that it's been up and down, and you kind of waited on moments. If he'd have scored that goal at Harrogate, he scored that stunning goal. Whatever you want to say about the defensive capabilities of Wolves, I mean, he did score that acrobatic goal. It's still a brilliant finish to look at. I feel like people are quite quick to ridicule him where they won't ridicule the players.
I think because he's like I mean, I think part of it is just he's sort of like a lanky, cumbersome striker at times. And he can be seen in the same sort of comedy approach that sort of Peter Crouch was or someone. Do you know what I mean? He's like a bit gangly and maybe out of control and doesn't always move in the most elegant of ways. He's quite unorthodox as a striker. And I feel like what does genuinely annoy me is I feel like a lot of the narrative is kind of joking and mocking Mo Fowle, where we need to be encouraging this guy. He's a youngster. He's got the expectation of playing for Wrexham. He's also our most expensive ever striker. He's also got huge sort of expectations to live up to because we've just watched, basically for the last 2-3 years, we've watched strikers playing at a level beneath them, scoring goals for fun. And now we've got strikers who are at a level that is their level and goals are harder to come by. And yeah, I just feel like a lot of the narrative is very dismissive and unproductive and unhelpful of Mo Fowle. I think we should be encouraging him. I'm not saying just happy clap him and just go wild for no reason. I understand there's got to be context to it all and criticism is fair. But he's so early on, not only in his Wrexham career, but his actual professional career. We saw last season in League Two what he can do, the amount of goals he scored, the variety of goals. He's a very raw player. And yeah, hopefully everything can click for him as well at some point. But he's someone who... Give him time. Just give him time. These sort of opportunities are valuable for him, and hopefully at some point we'll get to see him properly unleashed in the Wrexham lineup.
Rich, there's obviously a difference as well between like legitimate criticism, which whenever you cross the white line, every player is there to be praised and criticised, but then there's a difference between criticism and mocking, you know what I mean? In terms of just some of the rhetoric, I think, veers slightly more away from criticism and constructive criticism into sort of waiting for any opportunity to kind of make fun of him a little bit. But I don't know. Maybe we're going to become fiercely protective now of Mo Farah now, especially
I think
especially
we are.
in home games. When he goes to away games, he's someone else is sponsoring him, so they can look after him. But when he's at home, we're going to have to be fiercely protective.
There's not going to be much of sort of fair analysis of his performances, are there, on this podcast? It's going to be very biased, very sort of rose-tinted glasses. But yeah, we're sponsoring Mo Farah. We're happy with that. The Port Vale game itself, like we said, the quirk for me was that Max, as you mentioned, and as we tweeted on Tuesday night, has gone from being, like you said, the kid who only got chances in these matches to now the senior pro who steps in and basically decides them. He got Wrexham the goal. He was just effortlessly good, and he'll be starting at Stockport the weekend. Josh Adam looked bright. I think there's certainly positives to take, but as you said, nobody's going to be forcing their way into the lineup on the back of that. Shootout defeat. Mullin, the only person to score, he took a spot kick with enough confidence, which is something at least. Let's hope that gives him another sort of kick going forward against Stockport. But is there anything you can take from the Port Vale game, or do you think it is just one of these quirky matches?
I'd say a reminder that a bit of penalty practice wouldn't go amiss whenever we you never know when you're going to need it again, especially when it gets into knockout rounds. You've got last 32 of the Bristol Street Motors Trophy coming up. I actually think some of the penalties were just well saved rather than sort of poor. I think Ford's was maybe a little bit too central, bit easy for Ben Amos, that one. But the others, I thought Revan was right in the corner. Rathbone struck it with good power. Just unlucky. That's the way the cookie crumbles when you take penalties. Sometimes you save them. Howard saved one of theirs. That's the way it goes. And ultimately, I think if everyone was in and it was our first team, probably the top 5 takers I would probably have would be Mullin, Lee,
McLean,
Max. I reckon could take one. I think he's a good striker of the ball, and I
bet Dan Scarr's got a penalty on him.
You reckon just absolutely lashed it top corner,
smash it. I bet Tom McConnell's good set piece as well, isn't he?
In my mind, Barney should be a good penalty taker, but sometimes there's always one or two that just aren't as cool from the.
I reckon Tom
McConnell.
I reckon Tom McConnell as well. Just really composed. He's so good on set pieces. But yeah,
Dan Scar, I can only think is just going to be thrashing it top corner.
It's going. It's going.
Just
the
top
net's coming
every
out.
time. Yeah, net's coming out basically.
Before we get onto Stockport then, Nath, there's been one topic of conversation that's... we asked for correspondence. We did get a lot. Not many people agreed with us, perhaps. We did run a poll on X, on Twitter, asking people, should Wrexham change their crest? Now, black and white, 75% voted no, 25% voted yes. But I would say the majority of the replies we had were, no, don't change the badge, but yes, do get rid of the feathers and Ich Dein. So to me, that's confusing. What I think, personally now, to end this debate once and for all, because I know people will be rolling their eyes back and stuff, what I think should happen going forward should be the current badge as it is, in the green part at the top, get rid of the feathers, get rid of Ich Dein, have some sort of Gresford sort of tribute there with the colliery wheel and a tribute to the people who died in that, and maybe have some words in Welsh instead, Heed or something, who knows. I mean, that's what I'd say in terms of sort of fresh and redesign that means more to the club and maybe plays a bit more on our own individual history. But hey, we had lots of correspondence, didn't we? Should we read some of them on emails?
We ignited Wrexham Twitter, and podcasters encouraged Ryan Reynolds to break hard promise. I mean, I literally just wanted to start a debate, which I did, or which we did, Rich. I'm not sure. We did successfully. I think we didn't even pick a side. We just sat on the fence and saying, yeah, maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. But yeah, let's see what some of you lot wrote, because YouTube comments went insane. And emails blew up, to which the inbox seemed to break. So, Rich, you picked some of the correspondence out.
So we had Red Snapper, who said, it's one of the most recognisable club crests in football. It should always remain as it is. I think that's what we mentioned last week. Not only in terms of sort of people having tattoos, but the merchandising we've already done, sort of 3 years into the dock, and the Ryan Reynolds wearing Wrexham hats wherever he goes, the celebrities wearing it. Maybe you've already pushed that new badge so much that people they've already got the sort of iconography of that, so you don't need to change it again. Adam Cruz says keep the crest forever, but like Liverpool, a simplified version for the kits could be an idea. Welsh Knight 1456 said leave the badge alone. Okay, sounds like a threat, that actually.
Probably was.
Rob Mills says I like the old badge better than the current one. Bring it back. We were talking about a new badge, not an old badge. Home Tech UK, not sure if they're a company. The badge should never change. Always way too many locals have that badge. I like the badge should never change. Also, way too many locals have that badge tattooed on them. I see it around the town.
I was going to say, I like the idea of companies berating us. It's permeated just normal people. It's gone to companies. Head offices are fuming at our debate.
Jason Roberts said, no, that badge is sacrosanct. And to see people who have been around the club for 2 minutes, you and me, 2 minutes of support Wrexham, discussing it makes me feel very uneasy. It's an historic symbol of the club and has to remain unchanged. To which David Barton replied, in all capitals, yes, mate, you right. Leave alone for f***'s sake. Okay, cheers, David Barton. Sean Bartlett Evans says a lot will change and has changed for the better. I'm not against change in principle. However, this is our badge and I like it. David Milton said, I love the badge. Not a fan of changing the core of Wrexham's history. It's like a family coat of arms.
So a lot of people don't like it, basically, is what you're telling us, Rich. A lot of people want to keep it,
there's lots.
Really interesting. Which the whole... What I'll say, the last thing I'll say on it, and then it can be probably left in the scrap heap with.
Well, I've got three more to read. I've got three more to read.
Okay, go ahead.
Very Us Mumbling said they should do a new badge, but more like a refresh of the old. They have to keep 2 dragons. They have to keep the barley. They just bought a brewery, and they have to go with a shield, not a circular shape. But they could simplify it. If they keep the same colours, red, white, and dark green, but use modern font and remove the ribbons, then they should be good. Greg Rott says, personally, I can't be doing with the Ichdein motto and the 3 feathers. Go back to the old crest, much more authentic. And the final one comes from user DX7QK8QF8E, who says, thank you. I've been screaming about this for a while. As a designer, it desperately needs a revamp. The design elements are too many, too crowded and outdated. I think supporters should be involved in any process, but it should be done. So yeah, it's a delicate one. Like I said, I think the majority of people would say don't change it, and then there's a lot of people say don't change it, but do get rid of Ichdan and the feathers, have something a bit more local to the club. But we promise you, until this actually happens, if it ever does, which it probably won't,
no,
we are not going to talk about the badge again.
No,
but do keep your emails coming in. RobRyanRed@gmail.com.
Some people even emailed in their versions of the badge, like their designs, which I need to properly get to and look at. But yeah, we're gonna very much park that with fantasy football and all the things that you lot scream at us about that you don't like, and we do listen. We don't always we're not too stubborn to change or to leave things. But as I said, mission accomplished. You all forgot about Harrogate. You can thank me later.
I would say as well, Nev, I swear the person who came top of fantasy football last week sent us a tweet as well, maybe saying that they missed out on their shout out, or it could have been the week before. So I am sorry. It was John Olsen. He said, great episode. Could have used more fantasy content though, right, Rich? And definitely not just because I was manager of the week. So
there you go, John.
Well done to John Olsen, who I think it was Andy saw a lion. He finished top of the group the league last week. So yeah, thank you to everyone who does get in touch, and we will give occasional fantasy football updates. I think maybe at the end of the podcast, so Nath can have his moment. But yeah, for now, that is put to rest.
Right then, Rich, Stockport at the weekend. I was all set to go. I was very excited, all kind of ready, raring to go, fill the international break. And then I find out, no, I've got to work. I've got to go and watch England's under-21s over in Spain and the Netherlands. So you've got my ticket, or James has got my ticket. Are you excited, firstly, before we get into the preview? Because Stockport lost 5-0 to Wickham, won 5-0 against Bolton. What the hell are we going to get when we go to town?
Well, as we'll say in this preview coming up, I would just always back the home team in this fixture, and I think we are playing. It's good that Stockport have already got that sort of responding win out of the way. I think it will be a really close and tight match. I do just think that the home team has this sort of extra advantage here, and particularly because the away end is in that little corner. Stockport effectively have four sides of the ground, so the kickoff and stuff doesn't really matter to them. We've had some horrible trips there in recent years. Obviously, we had the one where Mullin scored immediately and we went on to lose the game. What happened last season is still giving me nightmares. Last season's game for me was the game where someone picked up my ticket, so I didn't have a match ticket. I then got a match ticket. The day before the game, my car broke down, and then I couldn't go to the game anyway, and we lost 5-0. So hopefully this weekend isn't that bad, touch wood. But yeah, this isn't me trying to be pessimistic, mate, because I know we do get a lot of people saying, just be positive once. I just think Stockport are a very good team, and they are good at home. I know they've had the Wycombe defeat. Wycombe look excellent. I don't think it's out of the question that we can get a result this weekend, but to be honest, I'm not expecting us to win.
Got 3 home games in the next 4 games. So we've got Stockport, Exeter, Lincoln, Barnsley before we go to Burton Albion away. So, it'll be one of these results where probably I judge it in the course of the 5 games, because when I was looking back at the previous 5, we had Rotherham, we had Mansfield, particularly tough games, that were tricky on paper, and we came through it pretty well. So, I've probably say 10 points over the next 50 out of the next 15, maybe, one of which will probably lose one of the next 5 games. Is that going to be Stockport? Obviously, it'd sting a little bit more if it was against Stockport, but they all count exactly the same. I just don't know what I'm going to get with them either. You just know that the likes of Louis Barry will probably step up and play excellent. Wrexham come to town, there'll always be that added edge, and not that they're necessarily switching off for teams like Wycombe. Wycombe were far superior. They should have won 7 or 8-0 on the night I watched that game. And Stockport were absolutely humbled, and then Bolton go and get absolutely slapped around in that response game. Like you say, I'm kind of glad that they got that out before facing us, but you just never know. Like I say, we're one step closer to doing another donation to, was it the Joshua House that we donated to last week, and it was in the description, for that other Rich who's going to Finland for a charity fundraiser. Still got to get a few more games yet that McLean, Dobson and Cannon have got to get through without suspension. So we shall see. Me and Rich would be thrilled if we get to it and we have to make another donation. That's all good. But I don't know. It was in that 5-0 where McLean was getting pelters, and it seemed to bother him on the day.
Oh God, yeah.
It was one of those games where it did actually seem to affect him, which doesn't very often. But that was one instance where I can remember they really seemed to get under his skin and everything was going wrong. Him and Boyle down that side particularly. So let's see. I don't know. I'd love to have something on the bench, that maybe a Josh Adam on the bench, just something that maybe Stockport haven't really planned for, aren't super familiar with. So let's see. Maybe, I don't know. I think we go there, maybe get a draw. That'd be the best I could hope for.
Surely a win's better than a draw, but yeah,
no,
I know.
Sorry,
a
win's the best I could hope for, but I think it might. Yeah, wins obviously a win is the best. A 10-0 win is the best I could hope for, but
no, 11-0 win is the best you could hope for.
If a 12-0 win,
or 12-0 win, 13-0 win.
Yeah. We'll give you the entire podcast. Yeah. I think we get a draw there, I'd be happy. Basically, is what I should have said. If we get a draw there, I'd be quite happy with that, because you've gone and beaten Mansfield, very tough game. You threw in the Bristol Street Motors, basically giving everyone a rest. Let's see. People should be fresh. There should be no complaints of tiredness or lethargy or anything like that.
Well, we spoke to Hannah Brown from the SK3 TV podcast. It's her birthday, I think, today while the podcast is listened, as she mentions, and she's maybe as much as us just wants this game out of the way, because you get the sort of circus, you get the charade around Wrexham versus Stockport, international break, so it can be shown on TV as well this Saturday. There'll be lots of media attention on the match. Lots of people just waiting for another spectacle, another show. Recent history always backs the home team. And yeah, this is what Hannah Brown had to say ahead of our meeting this weekend. So Wrexham versus Stockport once again this weekend. I mean, when you see this fixture on the calendar, what is your sort of initial feeling towards it? Another match with all the eyes of the world watching.
So I do that thing where, when you get the fixture list and you look for certain fixtures, you look for first, last, Boxing Day, New Year's Day, and I look for my birthday. And my birthday's tomorrow, so this is my birthday game. So I normally do hospitality, and I'm not doing because it's sold out so quickly. I think I just don't enjoy it. I don't. It's nothing against Wrexham. It just seems to bring out the worst in both fan bases. I sit in the Together stand in Block 3, which is the one immediately adjacent to the away fans, and you're going on Saturday, aren't you?
Yes. So you'll be the one we'll be flicking our V's towards.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And I just don't like it. I don't like conflict and confrontation anyway. And you'll see we've got these tiny little boys. I don't know how old they are. Maybe 7. And there's been a whole Twitter thing about how Stockport County's got the scariest ultras in the Football League. And it's these kids. And they're hilarious, but again, it's just part of this whole
circus, I suppose,
yeah,
isn't there?
honestly, don't take it personally. They were doing it to like the Bolton lot on Saturday and Wickham, 5-0 down, and they're giving it the. So, yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. I just feel whatever the outcome, it just creates a horrible kind of atmosphere, and I don't love it as a fixture.
Happy birthday! That's the message we're getting on this one. So, yeah, I mean, I guess the quirk of it is when we met you in non-league, particularly, it's one of these sort of faux rivalries where it's not a historic, it's a performance-based sort of rivalry between the two teams. And at the time, we were the two sort of biggest Northwest clubs. Now, obviously, going up to League Two gives you a crew added into the mix. For example, Tranmere are there as well for us, which is more volatile. And now in League One, like you said, you just play Bolton. That is a far more historic rivalry for you than Wrexham. So, yeah, I guess that's the point, isn't it? That from both clubs' point of view, as much as the outside noise is this is a rivalry or a derby, which it's not, it's kind of, the more you talk about it, the more it becomes one.
I know, and it's an hour. Like, for me to get to Wrexham, it's an hour. And I think as well, like, there are so many similarities between the clubs. I think there's that whole, Wrexham fans will often throw, oh, you're just jealous. I think, if every football fan in the lower leagues is being honest, then they would say, yes, we would love, really high profile actor or celebrity to come in and invest in the club and invest in the local area. And we've had Mark Stott, who is the polar opposite, probably financially a similar level, but very quiet, doesn't, when we won the league, he sent his daughter on to like greet the players. She's, 12 or 13, I think. He just does not want a profile. He doesn't want that recognition. But for all the similarities, I think that's what causes the rivalry a little bit as well, because I think some of it's jealousy, some of it's Wrexham are a detractor. You look at, I do the SK3 podcast, but also the lower league look one and particularly last year, you'd look through the League Two news reports on the BBC, and on any given week there would be one or two for Wrexham, and it's that kind of what about us type thing. And I think that's diminished slightly this season because we've got Birmingham. We should all just kind of unite against
and hate them instead.
Birmingham fans' entitlement. I don't think you get the clubs like Stockport in the same way that we and Mansfield do. But yeah, I think it's a really funny one. I think you're right. I think it's just recent history that's driven it, but it's just not fun. I've got anticipatory grief already for how I'm going to feel on Saturday. And I keep telling myself that I felt exactly the same way last September, wasn't it? Yeah. I went in fully expected to get battered and had that kind of sick feeling because I knew what was going to happen on social media afterwards. And I was adamant about it. I would tell anyone who would listen that we were going to get absolutely slaughtered. And there was a bloke sat next to me. He doesn't normally sit next to me. And he kept saying to me, like, 2-0 up, 3-0 up. Like, do you agree that this might be okay now? I'm like, no, I've seen Wrexham against Swindon, like, just a few weeks before. I think it ended, was it like 5-5 or something?
Yeah, it was.
Come from behind. It was bonkers. I was like, no, you can't you can't take anything for granted. And even when it got to 5, I was like, no, you know, let's have
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh, I am the most kind of pragmatic, not
Pessimistic.
pessimistic,
Well,
but
that's the word we use on this
realistic.
podcast for ourselves. I think we are very negative from a Wrexham
Yeah.
fanboy. So I think we're both we just want a 0-0 draw, everyone to go
Yes.
home happy,
Yes.
just get over and done with.
Yeah, I was thinking that this morning. If we could just negotiate that between us, let the players know, then yeah, it's all good.
In terms of that, though, the interesting thing that I think that both clubs have a mutual respect for is both clubs are absolute winning machines, aren't they? And even this season, we've seen it that we're probably all anticipating some sort of drop off, but you'd still say Wrexham and Stockport are teams that look likely to get playoff positions at the very least this season. That must fill you with confidence because this season, what did you expect this season? Being back in League One.
I would always, and I was the same when we came up into League Two, I would have settled for mid-table obscurity. It was, for me, it was a kind of consolidation year. We'd recruited heavily in the summer and the players were a lot younger. We lost a lot of experience in like Paddy Madden and Anthony Sarswich and people like that. So we've got a team who are still kind of finding their feet. And I think the club are projecting 11th up. I would be happy a good few points further down. What's interesting this season, in common with last season, is that the points bracket is quite tight still. I know we're a quarter of the way into the season, but you know, it only takes one win to go from 16th to 9th, which was something we saw last season, and it gives you a little bit of optimism in that, you know, we haven't thrown it away yet. I mean, I'm not that I'm not that pessimistic, but equally my expectations are low. And you know, you look at clubs like Leyton Orient who are currently really struggling, but you don't kind of expect that to be their finishing position. And I think there's lots of that. Wickham were outstanding last week, and that was almost the tie that I expected every League One game to be, that it would be a real struggle. And I think given we had a really good start, which is very unusual for us, we normally only start playing around now. And that definitely filled us with confidence. And then with injuries and kind of things have dropped off, we have a new goalkeeper. And I think you'll see the old one on Saturday. So that sounds awfully dismissive. You'll see a goalkeeper that you've experienced previously. So we're still kind of finding our feet. And last night we lost to Tranmere last night. And yes, it was like you. There were 11 changes, and it was a B team, if you like. But some, you know, incredible names that Ethan Pye played, Jack Diamond played. You know, it was a team that should have done better. The Wickham result before, it's just keeps you on your toes, no complacency, it's just part of the roller coaster. But 5-0 down on Tuesday to 5-0 up on Saturday was wild.
Yeah. I guess that also for this weekend, we're not quite sure which Stockport to expect. In terms of the team itself, you mentioned that you lost some key players in the summer, particularly in the recent history of the two clubs, players who've haunted us really. If I think back to the game last year, Louis Barry tore us apart. Probably the best player in League Two as an individual talent, arguably one of the best players in League One as well. Huge signing to get him permanently. Who are the other new faces? Who are the people that we should be wary about if something's going to happen this weekend? Who needs to have a good game?
It depends which week you get. Kyle Wotton you'll be familiar with. He was outstanding on Saturday. Louis Barry is obviously back. How long we'll have him, we don't. I mean, it's supposed to be a season-long loan, but, you know, we'll see. Lewis Bates came in the mid-season. I think he's 21. He's replaced Paddy Madden as captain, which was an interesting choice that no one saw coming. And he is like Ryan Crosdale, but kind of much better at playing the ball forward. Who else? You see, I don't even know. I'd imagine we'll play a team similar to Saturday. So you've got Callum Connolly in defence, who is ex-Blackpool, a real kind of utility player, and he was supposed to be our injury backup, but then tripped over on a sprinkler, which I think you'd had as well. in pre-season, so he was out for a bit. Who else is there? I'm thinking about new people. Nick Powell's injured, so you don't have to worry about him.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the players that was heavily linked with Wrexham before he signed for Stockport as well, wasn't it? It seems to be quite a lot of players with links between the two clubs when you look at the squad lists. And yeah, if we run you through the squad then that played against Bolton, the 5-0 win, as you said. So you had Hinchcliffe in goal, who we all know well. You had Connolly, Horsfall, and Toure in defence. Southern Hales, Norwood. Ollie Norwood, I suppose.
Ollie Norwood, he was really good on Saturday. He's very changeable, and I think he's a bit of a confidence player, which, probably suggests the stage in career as well. But the experience that he brings to that midfield is incredible. He made some really daft passes early on and then seemed to kind of kick on, and was him and Bate together, because obviously Norwood joined late in the window. Him and Bate together, we wondered how because they're both kind of similar players, but actually worked really well together on Saturday, so that was good. Toure you won't have on Saturday because he's on international duty.
Okay.
So we'll likely see Pye back in. He was suspended last weekend. So one in, one out.
And then in terms of, I mean, do we dare ask for the prediction? You just want it to be over and done with as soon as possible, don't you? I mean,
yeah, I honestly think that you might see your away win.
Really? I would always back the home team in this fixture based on sort of recent form. And
historically, that's always been the way. I don't know. If you get last Saturday's team, and I've said this a few times this season, we're playing a style of football that's genuinely enjoyable to watch, as opposed to the ones where you kind of grind it out and it's hoofball and just torrid. And we played like that on Saturday. But then last night was diabolical. Wycombe was diabolical.
So what would you say the biggest change was between the two 5-0 performances? Because
they got a massive kick up the arse.
Yeah.
Like genuinely. Like Charlie talked about, how sometimes you need that kind of result to force the point that things aren't working and the players need to behave differently. They need to do different things. I mean, he's really interesting as a manager. He's quite old school. He's definitely doesn't seem to be kind of hearts and minds. He is not their friend. He is there to get the best out of them. Tactically and strategically, he is incredibly talented. And so when they don't do what he wants, and he knows what they need to do, he gets incredibly frustrated. So I think that was the catalyst that, it was an embarrassing level of defeat, despite how good Wycombe were. It was one of those where Wycombe were incredibly good, we were incredibly bad. Like on Saturday, we were very good, Bolton were very bad. So it's kind of hard to get a read on it. But yeah, I'm always a pessimist, definitely always a pessimist when it comes to Wrexham. And yeah, so I'd take 2-0, honestly. Like anything above that, it starts to get a bit ridiculous. What was it? It was 2-1 when we came to you at the end of last season.
Yes, on the final day of the season, yeah.
I'll take that again.
And then we had the 2-0 in the FA Trophy and 3-0 in the league. The day you could have won the league as well. So yeah, we've been good. That
was awful.
That was very good.
I couldn't get a ticket, and I watched it at Edgeley Park on a big screen. Yeah, it was just.
At least it wasn't your birthday. At least we're only ruining this one.
True.
So
I don't really do my birthday. It's a bit of an excuse, but it was the one that when I looked at the fixture list, I was like, oh, it had to be.
So Nath, let's just shake hands, call it 0-0, and all go home happy. I think, have people seen that clip of that Sheffield Wednesday fan from a few weeks ago who just wants to get home, watch Gladiators and have a Chinese? That's kind of the mindset I'm in for this Saturday. Let's just get over and done with, have a few drinks in town beforehand, and then move on to matches with less jeopardy on them maybe in the weeks ahead.
I don't know
you
why
mentioned,
though, Rich, because Bake Off's on a Tuesday. You don't need to be worrying about rushing home on a Saturday.
I know, only 2 weeks left, though, mate. Only 2 weeks left.
God, what are you going to do with yourself? Hopefully we'll still be in the Bristol Street Motors
Trophy. I'm going to stop watching
beyond
Wrexham or something. I don't know.
Good
It's going to be
God.
boring, that.
Good God.
You mentioned at the start of the podcast as well, Nave, which does tie in with Stockport again, the TV fixtures that have been announced as well. And lots of Wrexham games going to be moved for them, including 2 hideous Thursday night matches. The argument is this is the price for success. They want, if you're a successful team, they want to put you on TV. We knew about the jeopardy of this new TV deal at the start of the season. To be honest, we thought our fixtures would be messed around a lot more in the first half of the season. To be fair, they were quite kind. Mansfield at home was maybe the most inconvenient. Obviously, we've got Bristol Rovers away as well. That's a midday kickoff. Other than that, we spoke about Birmingham, the Monday night, inconvenient for some, but not as inconvenient as Thursday night, Shrewsbury away and Birmingham at home in the new year. What are your thoughts on it? Because I know there's the element of this is the price of success. This is just what the TV deal is always going to be like. We could have had it worse than we have, but in reality, Jesus, it's awful, isn't it? For me, I just
Tell us what you really feel. Tell us how you really feel. I think there were some strange selections in Reading at 12:30. I mean, nightmare straight off the bat. But Reading, as you mentioned, I think last week, are likely to get through that game. So that's already probably a redraw in terms of Sky need to make another pick, and that Reading is probably going to be moved to a midweek slot, you would imagine, unless a free weekend opens up. I don't know how that will pan out, but that was a strange pick. Northampton away again on a 12:30 slot is not ideal. The early kickoff, especially away. I mean, it obviously works the other way. Mansfield fans have to come to us, but tricky. And also, it doesn't really even appeal to, if you want to target the American audience. Surely a 12:30 kickoff so early on the West Coast, for example.
Yeah, for me, it's just they're thick decisions. It is just for TV fans, for neutrals who don't have any skin in the game. It's just because TNT Sport have the midday kickoffs in the Premier League. What can Sky Sports put on? Let's put on some League One football. We know Wrexham are probably, after Birmingham, arguably the biggest team in that league for TV figures. So let's just put them on. I mean, there's not going to be any thought for match-going fans because TV companies don't think like that whatsoever. The quirk of it is, of course, we need TV money. We've just made a documentary that TV money is behind the club. But it still stinks to me.
Thursday night is obviously competition for TNT. Have got European games, and Sky obviously don't have. So that's,
I think, Shrewsbury Town and Birmingham City. They're 2 consecutive Thursday nights as well, which is a real kick in the teeth.
Right.
They will obviously be our weekend games as well. So there's not actually any weekend matches. There are Thursday night matches. And they both clash with Europa League because obviously Sky Sports wants something that can go to head with watching Rangers, Man United and stuff like that. I get why they've done it from that point of view because obviously they've got things to do. But
Rich,
from an actual match-going fan's point of view, middle finger to them.
Yes, totally agree. But I agree with you. I think we got off fairly lightly in the first half of the campaign. I think probably the most inconvenient is a 12:30 trip just before Christmas to Bristol. That's probably the most inconvenient of all, right? The Monday night, like I say, didn't really help a lot of people. Birmingham, but not a million miles away. Bristol for 12:30, if you're going to go on the day, is a trek. That is a slog. But really, we got away with it. I felt like, and you see, I think Richard Sutcliffe wrote a piece in the Athletic about the TV hit, the Wrexham. I think it'll be 25 out of 25 games selected for TV in the States for Wrexham, which is more than, I think he said Leeds had something like 16 picks and Birmingham were down at about 7 picks. Wrexham will be 25 of 25, which is staggering, really. But yeah, moved games against Reading, Northampton, Birmingham, Shrewsbury, and I feel like there was one other in there as well thrown in. But for the match-going fans, a nasty one, stings.
Yeah, it is just. This is just modern football, though, isn't it?
We can't end on such a negative note. We've got to flip it. We've got to find something positive that we can end on, surely, to send people off on their Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays into the weekend. Surely, can't just have us moaning.
Yeah, I know. Well, so let us know on RobRyanRed though. RobRyanRed@gmail.com. Do you think we are just whinging because we're whinging? This is modern football.
Probably.
Suck it up. Do you know what I mean? If you can't go, boo-hoo. Lots of people can't go to games anyway. Just grow up. Or do you think, come on, have some sympathy for match-going fans. It's not right that they're the ones who miss out and who are jeopardised by it. We'll still sell out probably all those away ends because that's the luxurious position we're in. And, okay, I might not be able to go to the Thursday night games, but who cares? I'm just a podcaster who's been here for 2 minutes talking about changing the crest. So, yeah, let us know what you think on that on RobRyanRed@gmail.com, on the website as well. Thank you to Joel, who is writing match previews as well for our games. We really appreciate the work he's doing. So if you want a match preview, you can go to RobRyanRed.com for them. But yeah, let's have some positivity then, Nath. Stockport County at home. Wrexham, what are we, third in League One in mid-November? I mean, whatever happens, mate, this is dreamland, isn't it? This is absolute dreamland.
And we've already played the team that's first, the team that's second, and the team that's Mansfield maybe fifth now, I think. Maybe Barnsley up to fourth. So we've played almost all of the top five. So theoretically, I know the game's not played on paper before we get told to grow. We're going to have a load of emails just telling us to grow up, all in capital letters now, because you said that. But and we're also going to get told it's not played on paper. I get that. But theoretically, things are about to get easier.
Yeah, so I think we've played 6 of the top 10 already. And we will have played 7 of them by Saturday, and one of them's us.
Well, look at the bottom. How many of the bottom 6 have we played then?
We've not played Shrewsbury. We've not played Burton.
We have played Shrewsbury. We have played Shrewsbury. Beat them at home.
Oh, yeah, they were shit, weren't they?
It was that terrible, yeah.
So we've won. We've played Shrewsbury, beat them because they're Shrewsbury. Burton, we've not played. Cambridge, we've not played. Crawley, we played.
Yeah.
Leyton Orient drew. Wigan, we've not played.
No.
So we've played 2 of the bottom 6.
Yeah, so, hypothetically, things should get easier.
Things can only get better. And we know how Wrexham are in these games against small teams where there's onus on us to attack.
The only way is up, even though that's not true, but we're just going to pretend it is. The only way is up.
If you want to be really negative, I'd never back us against the smaller teams like Leyton. I mean, Leyton Orient, no disrespect, they're a decent team, but these teams where we've got an expectation to go and attack. But that's not the point. We're trying to end on a positive. Let's get the momentum building. We're third in League One. We've played 6 of the top 10. Paul Mullin is yet to be unleashed. We're about to play Stockport away this weekend. We've got a little bit of a cushion. The Reds are going up, mate.
And Josh Adam
the Reds
exists.
Are going up.
We called
and
for
Josh
it last
Adam
week.
Exists.
Josh Adam exists. Matty James exists. Bodvarsson fan club. The Mofile Appreciation Society is open for business, new members. Barney's being linked with Rangers because he's that good. He's going to be linked with every team in the land and he doesn't want to go anywhere. Get him a new contract. I know he's extended thanks to your revelation a few weeks ago, but get him a new one anyway. Get him a better contract.
It wasn't a revelation, mate. It was a Ruvan. What was it? Ruvan elation? Going by the Port Vale commentators.
See us out now. See us out, mate.
Thank you so much to Red 10 People Development for their continued support of the podcast. Thank you to Wrexham Bond Hypnotic. New Stings. I think they could be in this podcast, were they?
Yes.
They were in this podcast. Thank you very much. Fantasy football. Nath, do you want to give us a quick shout out to finish top of the league before we go?
I mean, I had an okay week. I think I'm doing pretty well. But it's I'm on just shy of 1,000 points, 959 points, which puts me 20th out of 422 players. I'm just going to tell you who's overall number 1. The Telly Tubsies, C Biggs is number 1. Andy Saw a Lion, Mr. Olsen is number 2 overall, and mulling it over, R Bithell is the top 3 players fighting out, remember, for the Red 10 Fantasy Football Trophy, which will be going. We'll make sure wherever you are in the world, we will make sure you get the trophy. So I'm 20th. I don't want to win it, but I want to be successful. I want to keep you lot on your toes every week. So I'm doing well. Am I going to pick any Wrexham players this week? I'm at a point where I feel like I'm tempting fate picking Wrexham players, so I'm kind of staying well away.
Thank you very much, wherever you are in the world. Take care. We'll see you again next week.
A Wrexham AFC podcast with Nathan Salt and Rich Bay.